Hello Internet, this is the Thunder Paladin, and welcome back to the final installment of my review series of the Sacred 40 miniatures from Artistic Justice Games for the Fairytale Games Battle Royale card game. It's been a long road, and we're ending with a bang. Say hello to the horror show. Let's get started. Yeah! Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and start off by saying hello to Grendel. Now, Grendel here is a monster from the Beowulf story. He's depicted as a monster or a giant. It's up for debate. Now, of course, we touched on Beowulf earlier. It's an old English tale. It's got an anonymous author, and it was from the 8th to 11th century. They haven't pinpointed it. Now, what we do know from the story is that Grendel is a descendant of Cain from the Bible. His head is removed by Beowulf as a trophy, but we don't know why he still has it here in the story, but I'm sure they'll get into that when the game is released. Now, secondly and thirdly, we have our last two characters from the Wizard of Oz series. We have the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. Now, both of these were, of course, from the Wonderful Wizard of Oz book, written by Frank Baum, an American. And the Scarecrow, like we know in the Disney version of the film, claims to have not had a brain, and that's what he wants. And the Tin Man doesn't have a heart, and that's what he wants. It's interesting, though, because the Scarecrow, the reason he didn't think he had a brain is he's only 2 days old. He was just ignorant, really. And during the original tale, he's actually the smartest person in the party, and he gets his hands a little bit dirtier than he does in the Disney version. When the witch sends a flock of crows after the party, him and Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion, he actually snaps the crows' necks. He does his job as a scarecrow and takes care of the crows. Now, the Tin Man, he also has a darker past as well. He was actually a real man named Nick Chopper, who fell in love with someone that the witch did not want him to fall in love with, so she enchanted his axe to actually attack him, and one at a time it cut off his limbs. Yes, it actually cut him apart. That is just wow. But in the local country, there was a tin worker who made prosthetic limbs for him, and he became more cybernetic, really. He became more of a tin man as time went through, until eventually the axe kept cutting, and there was nothing left of the original man, and he was made completely out of tin. And of course, the tin worker forgot to give him his heart, so that's what he seeks. Now, the cool thing is at the end of the tale, the Scarecrow is so wise that the wizard actually appoints him to rule over the Emerald City in his stead. And the Tin Man is such a remarkable person that he ends up becoming the Emperor of Winky County. Now, Winky County is where they actually fight and kill the Wicked Witch. Now, fourthly, we have Pinocchio. Now, Pinocchio was written by Carlo Collodi. I really do hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's an Italian. And the tale was written in 1883. Now, he's a wooden puppet, but he's mentioned as a puppet several times in the book, but he's actually a marionette from what's described. Now, he was created by Geppetto. We know that from the Disney version. And he, of course, wanted to be a real boy, and his nose grew whenever he was under stress, particularly when he was lying. Now, in the book, we find out more about his character, and he goes through so many more different things. He's actually considered an epic hero because he goes through all these different trials and tribulations in the book, and after much hard work and just plowing through these trials successfully and continuing to try to do the right thing, he eventually does become a real boy. Next up, we have Quasimodo. Now, Quasimodo, also known as the Hunchback, from the title The Hunchback of Notre Dame, written in 1831, is a French tale written by Victor Hugo. Now, Quasimodo was the bell ringer for the titular Notre Dame Cathedral, and his adopted father was Frollo, much like in the Disney film. Now, Frollo has him kidnap Esmeralda, who is a gypsy, and through a lot of just bad stuff happening, it's a lot darker than the Disney film. Long story short, Esmeralda ends up being publicly hanged, and Quasimodo, in a fit of rage, flings Frollo from the top of Notre Dame, killing him. And at the end of that tale, Quasimodo dies because he sits next to Esmeralda's dead body until he starves to death. Much, much darker than the Disney version. Now, to end off this horror show that we have, I want you to say hello to a very, very important character in my childhood, the Headless Horseman. Now, the tale of the Headless Horseman is a motif found in European folklore since the Middle Ages. They have a Celtic version called the Dullahan. There's a German version that's mentioned in Grimm's fairy tales. But this figure, and probably the version that they're portraying in the card game itself, is going to be based off of the American version. Now, this, of course, comes from most notably The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, a short story written by Washington Irving in 1820 about a decapitated Hessian soldier who died during the Revolutionary War by having a cannon blow off his head. Now, they buried him in Sleepy Hollow's cemetery, and every Halloween he would rise from his grave and angrily seek out his lost head. Alright, on to my favorite part of the review, where we go over the miniatures themselves. First off, we're going to take a look at Grendel. Now look how big he is. Not just as the figure, because he is the large figure of the set, but we're only seeing half of his body here. This guy is immense. And I like that they have him busting out of the ground. It's a good way to keep the figure in scale with the other sets, and at the same time show that the character is in fact huge, because some of the Beowulf people say that he was a giant, so this way they can keep him rather huge and still have the figure, the miniature itself, the right size for the set. Now let's take a look here. This guy is covered in spikes, and he's got horns, and he's just got all kinds of lovely monster effects going on here. Look at his skin texture. It's got this almost leather or bark-like feel to it. It's got the spikes coming out of the shoulders. He's got these individually picked out teeth with these giant fangs in the front. I absolutely love this. He's got huge claws. He's got this battle damage or kind of like wear and tear on his skin, where he's got these holes in his skin like right here and some smaller ones up here through the back. We come around to the front. He's got some like slices and pock marks and stuff all through here. It's really, really nicely done. They took some time on this. This guy's ripped. I liked it. He's got some kind of, it's almost like an asphalt or a worked stone instead of a natural stone that he's busting out of, which gives it, you could give it a more modern feel if you were to paint like road stripes, and they're like the little like the black asphalt with the yellow road stripes on there for a more modern look. Or you could go with like a mossy and a marble kind of look if you want to have it look more old school. And I really dig this. He's got the wind in his hair. That seems to be a theme that we've seen all throughout the Sacred 40 is if you want to portray motion, let's put some wind effects going through here. And it's not a bad thing. I like it. It's got almost an Oni kind of feel to this head sculpt, and a more classical kind of horror monster body and torso. Really dig it. Now, secondly, we have the Scarecrow here, and this guy is creepy for a completely different reason. It's more of a zombie kind of feel, very haunted. If you take a look at the face, it doesn't have a lot of the detail that made it kind of comforting in the Disney film. He's got almost like it's just a sack, really, and not much detail. And we take a look at the feet, and they're just these tufts of straw. He doesn't have these cool pointy shoes or anything like that make him more cutesy. He's got his arms up. The left arm is in like a claw, more of a zombie kind of feel, and he's holding a 2x4. Now let's talk about the 2x4 for a second. I've liked a lot of the weapons in this set. This is my least favorite weapon. This thing, it does have, it's got a little bit of detail. I'm trying to be unbiased here. He's got a little bit of detail here. You got a little bit of a gash right there in the quote-unquote handle of the thing. And it's got some wood detail going up and down it. But I would have liked to at least see like maybe a nail or some barbed wire wrapped around it, something like that to give it a little bit more menacing look. But other than that, it's okay. Um, they do have the detail lines going through the fabric, which has been another enduring theme throughout the Sacred 40. I really do appreciate that. He's on this cobblestone kind of base. Oh, fall over, don't you? Like you did in the movie. Well, he's got the rope around his waist, very kind of Scarecrow look, and he's got the classic hat to top it all off with a little bit of wear and tear on it to show that he's kind of aged. He's kind of got it that spends a lot of time outside, so to speak. Now here's his compatriot from Oz. We've got the Tin Man, and I really do love what's going on here. Look at this posing. It's very dynamic. It's got a lot of motion in it. I like that they gave him a freaking mace for a left hand. He's like, I can rebuild myself faster, stronger, better than before I have the technology. And this guy, well, to be fair, he's kind of loaded. You know, in the end of the tale, he was an emperor, so he can do whatever he dang well pleases to give himself some upgrades. And the base that he's on is kind of wear and tear. It looks like there's been some turmoil. There's a lot of movement here in the base, as in it looks like there's been some stuff like dragged through the mud here. It's not rather neat. It's got a lot of dirt detailing to it, and there is some scattered debris. Now let's look at his design for his armor, well his body. It's got some cool details in it. I like that they went ahead and kept the heart there. Now, interesting thing about that heart, it's hollow. You know, it's just an outline, and that's kind of a cool detail. And from what I've heard from my friend Andrew, that keeps more of a detailed look at the ongoing effects on the ongoing story on the website, the Fairytale Games website, that the Tin Man's actually a real bad guy in this series and he doesn't have a heart anymore. Might be true, might be false, I'm not sure, I'll have to check. But that's what he tells me. Now, he's got some detailed armor. He's got these rivets here on the plating. Looks like maybe he's kind of reinforced himself for combat. He still has his axe. He's got the traditional oil funnel kind of hat with the little handle on the side. He's got these cool steampunky goggles going on for eyes here. And I just absolutely cannot say enough about the motion and the posing. He looks like he's running straight forward, full bore, full locomotive power, going straight towards something that he's either saving or getting ready to wreck. I like it. Now next up we have this creepy little guy, Pinocchio. He is the smallest figure in the set. And let's start with the basing here. The basing is creepy in and of itself. It's got a mannequin arm in the front and a mannequin leg in the back. I like that there's like some spare parts. I don't know if you're scared of mannequins or not, but you ever see those horror games where they've got the mannequins just standing around? Always creeps me out. So it'd be fun to paint this guy up and really make those pop on the base. Now I like that they've kept the smaller characters using daggers. It does make sense from a tactical standpoint. You know, you're smaller, more nimble. And so I'm perfectly fine with his dagger there. Now his clothing, it's kind of an interesting mix in my eye. He's got the tethered clothing, which makes sense, but he doesn't have his shoes. And I know that's a dumb thing to nitpick over, but both in the Disney film and in the novel, they take time to mention that he's always wearing these wooden shoes. And they've got him barefoot. Now speaking of barefoot, they've got the detail to show every individual toe there, and I do appreciate that. And let's just drop him on the ground. That's amazing. Okay. But here we have, let's look at his head, because the head's going to be the biggest thing that draws you, because it's missing part of it. They've completely lobbed off the top of his head, and from the original art on the card, it looks like there's kind of like a bird's nest feel there, like you could paint that in rather darkly, and use his like straw hair, and make it look like there's a bird's nest camping out in his head. It's a little disturbing, and I like it, because this is of course the horror show set. Now he's got this apparatus on his back, might be some kind of wrist-mounted flamethrower kind of thing, like he's doing that whole Iron Man, like stop right there, I'm gonna blast you away. Or it might just be some pneumatics to give him more upper body power. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it is an interesting detail, so I thought I'd mention it. They do keep him looking like a boy instead of just a midget, with his spindly arms and legs, big head, and pot belly. There you go, Pinocchio, the wooden boy. Going from a rather small, impish, roguish type character, let's go on to the big brute of the group. This is Quasimodo, and he is large and in charge. Now, he isn't the large figure of the set, but he's still got some good mass going on. Now, the head sculpt is really interesting. He's got this open mouth, and he's got these hollows in his cheeks, kind of remind me of Aaron's Titan form from Attack on Titan. And I wanted to show this. I don't do this for everybody, but let's take a look at the box art here. The box art for the original card art. Look, they've got those hollows there, and they have strayed away from the original artwork quite a bit with this mold, and I think that's okay because they've given him this hair. It's unique hair in the set. Everyone else with short hair has kind of had a windswept look, and this is really kind of matted down. Maybe it's greasy because he is the Hunchback. He's kind of the whipping boy, so to speak. Doesn't take good care of himself or get good care taken of him. Now he's got all these little boils and nasty looking pock marks all over his skin, all over his body. He's got that huge asymmetrical hump on the back. Shows good for the Hunchback. And I like that they incorporated the rope, because both in the Disney film and in the novel, he swings from the rope quite a bit. And I like that they put that into his character, and that also gives him kind of a weapon where he could kind of choke you out. Really interesting. His shoes are kind of split open and ramshackle, just put together to try to give him some support. Like nothing will actually fit him, because those are very large feet compared to the other characters. Let's go ahead and do a little comparison. Go ahead and show off how big he is to the other characters here. Even with Tin Man, he's got more body mass, it looks like, and I really dig it. Now, last but certainly not least, my favorite from this group. I freaking love this guy. This is one of the guys I voted for when the Kickstarter said, "Hey, which do you want for the Sacred 40?" I'm like, can I vote like 15 million times for the Headless Horseman? Absolutely love this character. I love everything about this character and this sculpt. The jacket. First off, the jacket. I have a jacket almost exactly like this hanging from my closet right now. I love the fashion he's got going on here. He's got the nice Victorian era kind of ruffled shirt there. He's got the high collar. I love me a nice collar on a piece of clothing. He's got the pauldrons on his shoulders, which are going to be really fun to paint up, kind of like a shiny black maybe. Can't wait to paint this guy, because there's some detailing here that won't really pop until you paint him. Most notably, let's take a look at the eyes. Now, he does have the jack-o'-lantern head, which I mentioned earlier. I think this is going to be very much the American version of the character, not like the Celtic Dullahan or whatever, because he has the pumpkin head. Now, they don't have the standard triangle eyes for the pumpkin eyes, and they don't really show up very well on the sculpt itself without any paint. That being said, I'm going to go back to the art here and take a look at that. See how it glows there? That's a really nice effect. It's got kind of like a grating there on the eyes, and it pops out really well in the art. Very, very creepy detailing in the art. Just doesn't come through until you paint it. So please don't flaunt for that. When I get this guy painted, you know I'm going to do another series when I get these painted, believe you me. But yeah, I like that he's got his bag. What's in the bag? What's in the bag? It's a surprise, Timmy. Yeah, I don't know what I did there, but seriously, I like that they gave him a human head in a bag with his axe right next to it. Do you see the boots? These are the kind of boots I absolutely love. They got that nice the colored boot, and it's got a cut up the middle, so it's unique to the other ones. It's a little bit different from the other ones that have had the cuff boot. And the basing is probably one of my favorite things. No, it is. It's absolutely amazing. The American version of this character is that he comes up every Halloween from his grave, tries to find his head. Well, he's definitely found a head here, and then goes back to his grave. And I like that it's like a knocked over gravestone. That big heavy cross on the basing. It's a very nice detail. They didn't have to put in. They could have just had more grass or whatever. But I love that they put that big cross there to show that he is in a graveyard. It's a wonderful way to end the horror show. I'll go ahead and do a nice little group shot. I want to thank you all so much for being with me throughout this review series. It has been my first review series, and I'm very, very happy that it could have been this amazing line of miniatures. I look forward to doing more for you in the future. And until then, thank you so much. God bless you. Bye-bye.